Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, Headliner Nation, what's going on? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners. And ladies and gentlemen, we got to get into our in-depth breakdown of the NFL Week 4 slate as it pertains to tight ends. Going to talk some start and some sits in this episode, so make sure you buckle in, you get ready to roll, and we set some lineups for Week 4. We got to do the first thing though, right? We've got to look at our accuracy ratings from last week. So let's go ahead and throw it up on the screen. Last week, we came in at a 70%. So that's what we shoot for, 70% every single week. Obviously, we'd like to go a little bit higher. Oh man, Dalton Schultz is the big miss on there, because I had said in my video that if for some reason Amari Cooper was going to be out, that we were going to start Dalton Schultz. Well, Amari Cooper wasn't out. Didn't get that changed over. Schultz ended up having a huge week. So if you were listening to that video, and again, those start sit videos, that's why these are so important. You can't always just look at the rankings or this. If you were listening to it and you heard me talk about him, you may have taken a shot last week. So if you did, very awesome. Even though I ended up missing because we didn't list him as a start, hopefully some of that feedback that I gave you in the video helped you out and got you ready. And don't forget, we don't have much time left. What's today? The 29th. I had to double check. Today is the 29th of September, so our September giveaway is almost over. To get into that, you have to head over to Prize Picks, either on your web browser or on your phone. Download their app, make a new account, code word headliners, deposit $20. That's all you have to do. Download the app, make a new account with code word headliners, deposit at least $20. They're going to match that. That is going to put you in contention for this awesome giveaway that you see here. We've got a signed Justin Jefferson jersey. We've got a Manscaped perfect package and a Trevor Lawrence rookie card. We're going to put all this together. We're going to send it to our September winner. So make sure you do it sooner rather than later. But speaking of sooner rather than later, it's time to roll, baby. Let's jump in to Week 4 tight ends start and sit. First matchup, Thursday Night Football. Jacksonville is going to head to Cincinnati. And even though I don't have anybody as a start in this matchup, we have to keep an eye on Dan Arnold, who I've said time and time again is not a thing. And I ended up starting him last week, and I hit one of my 2 prize picks on him. It wasn't bad, but for Dan Arnold, he could end up bringing a little bit extra to this offense for Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was trying to look the tight end's way a little bit to start the season. It might take a while for Dan Arnold to get incorporated. So we'll keep an eye on that. So not this week, but maybe in the future. We will see. For the Cincinnati Bengals, though, CJ, who's your mama, and Drew Sample, both of these guys are sits for me. Why? Because the wide receivers are the key on this offense. Washington and Atlanta, the first game on the afternoon slate on Sunday for the Washington football team. I'm going to go with Logan Thomas as a start this week. The Atlanta Falcons are tied for the league lead in touchdowns allowed to tight ends, and that is where Logan Thomas could make his money this week for the Atlanta Falcons. We are also going to play Kyle Pitts. You are seeing that even generational talents at the tight end position can have their ups and downs as rookies, and we tried to caution people about that. Yes, we had Kyle Pitts higher in the rankings. Why? Because there was nobody else outside of Calvin Ridley, but I did not anticipate this offense being as inconsistent as it has been the first 3 weeks. So expect those inconsistencies on a weekly basis, but there are not too many players right now that have the higher potential volume than Kyle Pitts at the position. Right now, Pitts leads the Atlanta Falcons in slot snaps, and he is second in snaps out wide. So they are really, truly utilizing this guy as more of a wide receiver, which over the offseason, if you heard me talk about him, was one of the reasons why I was concerned that it might take him a while to develop, because he's coming and transitioning into really a new position. I mean, it's different. If you played a tight end position in college football, even if you did line up out wide or in the slot, it is much different than trying to do it in the NFL. So don't give up on Kyle Pitts yet. There are going to be some ups and downs, but the volume and the snaps are 100% there for you. Houston at Buffalo, and Jordan Akins is going to end up being a start for me this week. With how tough this matchup is going to be for the wide receivers. Davis Mills is going to need somebody, right? He's going to need somebody to throw to. I'm not expecting huge numbers, but what I am expecting is a potential touchdown. That's all I'm thinking about right now is a potential touchdown with Jordan Akins. He's going to be much lower on my list. He will probably barely crack 8 points, so I'm not recommending you actually stick him into your lineup unless you're desperate. But Mills is going to need safety. Akins is coming off a performance of 5 targets last week, and he, believe it or not, is second on the team in targets right now. So I'm going to go with him as a start this week. Just hopefully, again, he possibly finds the end zone because of the tough matchup. I think that could end up happening for him. Dawson Knox, I am also going to start him this week. Touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Possibly for my boy Knox, Houston does allow the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. I'm expecting a whole lot of offense on Sunday for Buffalo. Detroit at Chicago in week 4, and TJ Hawkinson is coming off a bad week, and this is going to be a potentially tough matchup for him. But can we really sit him? Heck, no, we can't. You can't sit him. Coming into last week, he had a 21% target share among the Detroit Lions players. Now, is that elite like Darren Waller or Travis Kelce? No, it is not. But it is clearly better than a lot of the other wide receivers. And even though, again, there could be some inconsistency issues with him at times because of the offense, this is an offense that utilizes the running backs out of the backfield a lot. We could see that, but we're not sitting him, especially, again, if he's around a 21% target share. Not happening. For the Chicago Bears, listen, last week was a disaster. We've said it multiple times this week, and Matt Nagy's a bum. But Cole Kmet, for me, is going to be a start. Detroit hasn't given up a ton of fantasy points to opposing tight ends. But over the last couple of weeks, they got burnt by Robert Tonyan, Big Bobby Tonyan, and they also got burnt by Andrews for more than 100 yards. So for Cole Kmet this week, again, I don't know who the quarterback is going to be. If it's Justin Fields, I wouldn't be surprised if he utilizes the tight end a little bit more. If it's Andy Dalton, we saw him try to go Cole Kmet that first week. So we'll keep an eye on this. Again, a guy that's going to be lower in the rankings, but because Detroit's been burnt by tight ends the last couple of weeks, Cole Kmet could do it again. Carolina at Dallas, and again, Dan Arnold out the door, just traded to Jacksonville. So that leaves us with Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble. And Tommy Tremble scored a touchdown last week, but that was it, right? Like there was nothing else to do with it. Young kid, rookies don't typically produce. You've got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall Jr., Christian McCaffrey will be back at some point. Chuba Hubbard will be utilized in the passing game. Nothing to see here right now. For Dallas, listen, I mentioned it at the top of the show that I was close to starting Dalton Schultz last week if Cooper would have been out. So if you listened to that advice and you were looking for somebody to stream, hopefully you ended up grabbing Dalton Schultz, even though Amari Cooper was active. So Carolina only allows 7 fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. And I expect this to be a pretty significantly back and forth game. However, what we learned this past week when Dallas played Philadelphia is they want to get, it looks like, more to a run-focused offense. Not necessarily running the football all the time, but utilizing the running backs a lot more than what they had been, especially Tony Pollard on the ground, okay? I think that they're starting to see that if we can control the game a little bit more and just not air it out consistently like we thought, this will work. Also, it's wise to note that the Dallas defense is actually playing a lot better than anticipated. Diggs has been an absolutely phenomenal addition to the cornerback position. Micah Parsons, obviously, he's been doing really well. We'll see if they get healthy in the other spots. But for me, Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz are both going to be sits again this week because Carolina has been tough on defenses, or tough on tight ends. I also think we're going to see Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb bounce back, and we're going to see more of the running backs this week. Indianapolis at Miami, and no Jack Mother and Doyle this week. No. That's all right. And no Mo Alley Cox, Mo problems. Neither of those guys from Indianapolis. But for Miami, we'll give Mike Gesicki another shot this week. I mean, Jacoby Brissett was targeting him like crazy last week, and I think we got to roll with it. Again, another tight end that I'm going to have as a start, but on the lower end of the spectrum. If the volume holds up, that's great. And against Indianapolis, there should be plenty of volume. Jacoby Brissett, he played for Indy. He was probably going to want a little bit of a revenge game here, especially considering that they didn't really, give him the choice to take over. But listen, Mike Gesicki, just be ready for him to absolutely blow up your week. So unless you don't have any better options, I would still skip him. But 8 fantasy points, I think, is in the card with the potential value. Cleveland at Minnesota, and I made the start call last week with Austin Hooper, and we nailed it, baby. But not expecting it again this week. Going up against the Minnesota Vikings, expecting, again, a lot of Nick Chubb, a lot of Kareem Hunt, expecting a lot of Odell Beckham Jr., and Donovan Peoples-Jones. So, for me, I'm not going with the tight ends right now. Minnesota has not allowed a reception to a tight end in the red zone yet. How's that for deep diving content? How many of you knew that? Let me know in the comments below if you actually knew that before this video, okay? So don't tell us that we don't do the deep diving content, because baby, we got you right there. Now over to Minnesota. Cleveland has allowed the 4th fewest catches to tight ends this season. Herndon has not been utilized. Tyler Conklin, great week last week. But for this week, can't roll with it. Cleveland has been pretty tough. They've got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, one of my favorite people in the draft this past draft. Absolutely loved him. He is definitely a guy that really helps limits the tight ends because he's all over the place. He can play back in coverage over the middle of the field. He can he can do everything. And that's one of the reasons why tight ends have had such a tough time. New York Jets and New Orleans Saints for the tight ends. Evan Ingram is going to be a start for me this week. 6 targets in his return last week, and the Giants could potentially be missing wide receivers. Again, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, as of this recording, have not heard any updates on where they stand with their past injuries. So because of that, I've got them both listed as injured out doubtful this week, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. If they both end up coming back and playing this week, then Evan Ingram probably moves to a sit for me. Keep an eye on the rankings. Hopefully we hear some updated information by then. But again, there will be plenty of volume for him this week if those guys are out. And for the New Orleans Saints, going with Juwan Johnson as a start this week. Right now, he leads the team in snaps out of the slot, and he's running routes on 93% of the plays that they run on offense. So he's out there. Has it come yet? It absolutely has not. But going up against the Giants this week, Juwan Johnson, I definitely think he's got some touchdown potential and expect him to be back into the reception columns this week as well. Tennessee and New York. And for Tennessee, there's no upside on the tight end position for them. And for the New York Jets, nothing as well. For those of you that kept blowing up the comments to begin the season about Ryan Griffin and Tyler Kroft and being huge breakout, I haven't seen you in a while. Where are you? KC and Philadelphia and Travis Kelce, baby, he's a start each and every week, so nothing to say about him. Over on the other side of the ball, though, with the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, I got to put them both as starts. I feel like I have way too many starts this week, but there's just, based on the research, there are a few guys that just have touchdown potential this week. And if they score a touchdown, they're going to hit 8 points. Unless it's like 1 catch for 1 yard and a touchdown, then they wouldn't hit 8 points. But it's basically a given, okay? And there's some touchdown upside plays this week. So I feel like I have way too many listed, and it could end up burning me next week. But out of Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, one of them's going to end up hitting, okay? They were combined last week for 11 targets, 6 receptions, 119 yards, and a touchdown. Now, if that was one tight end, that's perfect, but it's not. It's a combined tight end. Should we start a petition to do team tight ends? I think we should. But anyway, so Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, because of those guys, because of what they saw last week, because they were utilized, Jalen Reagor and Devonta Smith have been inconsistent at best. It's a matchup against KC where they're going to be throwing it a lot. We're going to start both of these guys. Arizona and the Los Angeles Rams, Max Williams, a good week a couple of weeks ago, but hasn't done anything outside of that. Tyler Higbee for the Rams, though, he's super safe. The huge games haven't been there, but he's catching everything. His drop percentage is 0. He's got no drops yet this season. The one target that he had that he didn't catch was off point. So Tyler Higbee right now, super safe. The volume's there. It's going to him. He's kind of like that second safety valve right now. It's Cooper Kupp and then Higbee. Robert Woods, if he gets a little bit involved maybe, and they've been taking some shots down the field, but Higbee is seeing plenty of volume. Maybe not huge upside every single week, but listen, he's going to be super safe for you. Seattle at San Francisco, and Gerald Everett, second in targets last week for Seattle, but it's still not enough without the touchdown. And that's what I've kind of said about Gerald Everett. Like, we got to get him scoring some more touchdowns, but I mean, Seattle's been striking from some excellent spots, okay? So it's been really hard to get the red zone looks because they haven't been in the red zone. They're scoring from way out. For San Francisco, George Kittle. Kittle finally got it again last week. That's what matters, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Kittle down, start him. Baltimore at Denver and Mark Andrews. Hopefully you stayed with them because this is my Manscaped must-watch matchup of the week. Mark Andrews bouncing back last week. Hopefully you stuck with them because he hit last week, over 100 receiving yards. Denver, we're going to be going with Noah Fant as a start this week. Why? Because Baltimore allows the most fantasy points per game to tight end. So we are going to head and roll with Noah Fant this week. Yes, the Baltimore defense has faced some great tight ends, right? But we've got Cortland Sutton, we've got Tim Patrick, and then what else? KJ Hamler, he's out, right? He's done. He's hurt. He's not going to be playing. We've got Jerry Jeudy, who is also out right now. So you've just got Cortland Sutton. You've just got Tim Patrick as the two main targets. Noah Fant should hit this week. And if he doesn't, I would be absolutely shocked. Pittsburgh and Green Bay. And listen, Pat the Muth Fryermuth. If Juju's out, Patty F is 100% a play. He is the go-to tight end now. 100% he is going to be the guy. And if there's no Juju, they're going to be looking for someone else to take some of those targets because I can't anticipate Najee Harris having 19 targets again this week. Pat's going to have to see a little bit. So right now I'm going to list him as a start because I don't have any more on Juju. Could he be limited? Could he be banged up? I don't know. For Robert Tonyan, he's back to a sit. He drew us in a couple of weeks ago, but you know, it's the same inconsistencies, the same problems that I've been talking about all preseason and during the season right now. Going up against Pittsburgh, just not loving the matchup this week with Bobby Tonyan, especially with how many points they give up to wide receivers, how they've been utilizing MVS lately, and of course, Aaron Jones and the huge volume he's getting. Tampa Bay and New England, oh my God. Gronk's going to go for like 400 yards and 18 touchdowns alone on Sunday night. I mean, Brady and him are going to want to stick it to New England, don't you think? They're going to want to go in there and they're going to want to perform. Not that they don't like New England or they don't love their time there. They're just going to want to stick it to them, right? That's what you do. So expect Gronk to have a huge week this week. Hunter Henry is going to be a start for me because I think Jonnu Smith is slowly working himself out of some significant target percentage. He's dropping too many passes right now. He does not look good. So Hunter Henry could really become that fantasy tight end that we've needed with Smith struggling. So continue to watch it. They're going to be down to Tampa Bay. They're going to have to pass a whole lot, and Hunter Henry could definitely see some decent targets this week. Las Vegas and the Chargers, and for Darren Waller this week, he is going to be a start for me, and he is my prize picks prop to watch for the tight end position this week. And I'm going over 70.5 receiving yards for him because right now Kansas City allows over 13 fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. And I think we're going to get back with how good the Chargers have been against wide receivers. I think we're going to go back to kind of that week one where, I mean, it's Waller over and over and over and over because of how good the Chargers have been. I mean, I said it in my wide receiver video, they allow the fifth fewest fantasy points to wide receivers and the second fewest receiving yards. So expect a lot of Darren Waller this week. And for the Los Angeles Chargers, there's too many targets going to Allen, Williams, and Eckler for Jared Cook to be a guy that we start consistently. I mentioned it last week. I had a few people push back on it with Jared Cook. When you've got 30 plus targets going to those three guys, it is really, really hard to find a substantial amount of targets to say Jared Cook's going to be a start unless he scores a touchdown. There you have it, Headliner Nation. We are all done for our start and sit videos in week 4. Hit the like button down below and leave a comment about one of your favorite tight end plays this week. And if you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, then you got to hit that subscribe button. Become a part of Headliner Nation today. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy. Love you all. I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.